Roadshow, episode number 140. My name is John Morgan. Cold Coffee is finally back with me, my man.
Yeah, guess who's back? Back again. CC's back, CC's back, CC's back.
Da-da-da. Awesome, man. We are in Las Vegas. I know, that's right. You might have thought we were going to be in Detroit. We'll get to all that in a second. We're in Las Vegas, but it's good to be back together, man. After a couple weeks on the road, it's I think I'm a decent enough host when I'm rolling solo, but I just feel like I'm rambling on. And
I think you do fine on your own. It's much better than all cream and no coffee.
You're like, dude, you're like,
or all coffee and no cream.
You should just do it by yourself every week, bro.
Like, bro, it's good. It's fine. I'll just edit this shit and be done with it. But no, it's good. I think you did good. But no, it is good to be back, and it's good to be back here in Boomers.
Thursday, Thursday.
So
here we are. We're sitting inside the world famous Boomers.
Or soon to be world famous.
Soon to be. We're trying to make it world famous.
I mean, well, if you think about it, our listeners, which we love you guys, come from all over the place.
That's
like
right.
I've looked, we've seen. I mean, people are listening in Russia. People are listening in Japan. I remember one day, I can't remember what country it was. It was some random country. We were like, holy cow, we're like really hitting with like Slovakia or something, which doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, it was just crazy. So this is like I guess it is now a world famous.
If you're in Las Vegas and you're a Roadshow listener, you got to stop by, especially if it's Thirsty Thursday.
You do, and it's funny because now I see like different crowds coming here, like just like we like it. Now I see like little weird groups over here, hipsters over here, you know. So it's one of those hidden gems which we love. So if you guys like us, I know you're gonna like Boomers. Should you come,
it'll save you a couple bucks.
It will save you a lot of bucks. Compared to drinking on the Strip.
And you'll just have a little fun little dive bar experience. So we are in town, of course, for the Ultimate Fighter 26 finale. We did not go to Detroit. Of course, the big card this week, there are two UFC events. The big card is UFC 218 Holloway versus Aldo. That's the big pay-per-view. Our man Matt Erickson is up there with the young Mike Bond, who drove down from Canada. So they are handling things in Detroit. We're doing Las Vegas, which is, a little more low profile than the big pay-per-view. Just a touch difference.
Just a hair. But we had our own drama. We had drama.
We did have drama. But the good thing is it lets us have a little Ballast Point home game. It lets us have a little family time. It lets us just chill in Las Vegas.
That's good. Yeah, I saw you went to the movies the other day.
I did. I went to the movies with my kid. I mean, just now, my kid was actually outside T-Mobile Arena. They were doing a Christmas thing. So after the weigh-ins were over, huge, 80 feet tall, right outside T-Mobile Arena.
I was going to say, that was a big old tree.
So I got to see my family a little bit. It's cool. The weather's nice. I don't know what it's like in Detroit, but it can't be like it is here in Las Vegas right now.
Nope. Sorry.
All right, well, listen, we'll get into both of those cards, especially what we saw today at the Ultimate Fighter 26 finale. But first, we have to say big thank you to our friends at Freshly. Of course, by now, hopefully you know that Freshly.com is where you go to get your meal delivery every week. Meal kits done right. Listen, Cold Coffee, I ain't got a lot of time, man. I'm busy. And I could cook. I like to. Here's the thing. I know they really like to They like to market to people that can't cook. And if you can't cook, this is easy.
This is even.
That's done.
That's a lottery. You done won the lottery right there.
But even me, I like to cook.
Right.
And I still love me some Freshly.com because you know what? I just order my food up. I throw it in the microwave. It's 3 minutes in the microwave.
Yep.
Maybe like 1 minute to let it cool off a little bit. So
maybe 2 minutes if it's like that super hot pasta dish.
You don't want to burn yourself. And then right there, the meal's done. And you're talking about food that has been created by chefs, so it's got great flavors to it. The biggest thing, right?
Yeah.
The biggest thing when we partnered up with Freshly was like, all right, but what's it going to taste like?
Yeah.
It's good.
That's a big deal.
It's good. My wife
she loves that.
My wife stole all my Freshly while I was on the road in Sydney and Shanghai.
Right.
She stole all my Freshly. and she's like, I'm telling you, and this is the God's honest truth. My wife says, we finally found a solution. We found a solution.
That's awesome.
She's like, when you're gone and I am so busy and I'm trying to take care of Eli, we got the solution.
Yeah.
It's Freshly. And people need to try this out. Again, chef created. It's got nice calorie content, you know. It's gluten-free if you're one of those.
Gluten-free if you like that stuff.
I mean,
some people like it.
I'm cool with gluten, but
yeah, I mean, gluten's never done nothing wrong to me.
But you might as well have it. And there's no cleanup. You just eat it, you heat it up, you eat it, you throw it away, you're done, just like that. It's fully cooked. I mean, it's right away. It's all natural, no artificial flavors, preservatives, no refined sugars, none of that stuff, and always fresh, never frozen. I'm telling you, you've been eating it. You've probably eaten more than I have now because my wife's been stealing it all. They got some great food.
They do. We had the steak dish the other day. It was so good. And I like the pasta. I had the penne pasta, the penne bolognese. I'm going to say it wrong, but trust me, it was absolutely delicious. So it's good stuff, man. And if y'all want to get on it, use Roadshow.
That's
code
right.
Roadshow.
Go to freshly.com. Use the code Roadshow. You're going to save $40 off your first 2 deliveries. So you can pick the meal plan you want. I went back to them.
Yep.
Because they just wanted to set up for the 6-meal plan. And I said, listen, you get 6 meals a week. That's great. I think I want to do like 12. Like, I want to load up so that I don't have to cook it all.
Well, it's not just you because you know your wife's stealing your shit.
Well, she is stealing half of it. I'm like, so can you make this good for everybody? And the cool people at Freshly, they were like, well, nobody's ever asked us that before, John. But for you guys, for your listeners, we'll do it. So you can – listen, they're advertising at a lot of places right now. If you listen to other podcasts, you've probably heard other Freshly ads. They're advertising at places. But the thing is, they're only giving you for the 6-meal plan. I said, hey, I want everything. My listeners, Roadshow listeners are special. They need everything.
They like to eat.
That's right.
They like to drink.
They like to do it all. You don't limit our options. Don't limit our options.
How dare you? How dare you, folks?
And the fine folks at Freshly came back and said, John Morgan, son of a bitch, you're right. We'll just give it to him.
They did. I remember that conference call. They were like, John Morgan, son of a bitch. And you think about it, $40. That's $40 you can spend on some Frosty beverages.
Good. All right, so there you go. Again, fine folks at Freshly. Meal delivery done right. No cooking, no fuss, no muss, no cleanup, no nothing. Get it done, I'm telling you. If you're sitting on the fence and you're thinking about it, I'm telling you, try Freshly. You're going to dig it. You're going to save $40. So just give it a shot. You can cancel it any time, but I'm telling you, you're going to love it.
You start sounding like Burt Watson there for a second.
Baby.
You
love it.
Like, baby. Now I'm missing Burt now.
Oh, man. Well, speaking of Burt, how would he have what would Burt have been saying and doing today at the weigh-ins?
Oh, Lord.
What a crazy day we had at the Ultimate Fighter finale weigh-ins. Sijara Eubanks, I say missed weight. She never even hit the scale. She never even got a chance to weigh in. And Roxanne Modafferi steps in off the sidelines. She's now fighting for the Ultimate Fighter Finale Championship, but more importantly, a UFC title belt. Crazy things that happened.
Unreal.
I mean, I don't know. As soon as we got there, we heard, hey, there might be some issues. It sounds like Sijara went to the hospital last night. Okay, so and
well, that's the thing. Even the time frame was weird. We heard last night. She's trying to say early this morning. Maybe that meant like after midnight. Maybe there was some confusion. It's just weird because we started hearing last night, and then I was hearing today. So I don't know. I'd like that to get cleared up just to know for sure, like whether it's not because. And I know you're going to get to it because there was a point where we were sat there, and after you informed me of what was going on, what had been said, how she had went to the hospital. I'm like, why are we still doing this pony show?
That's right.
If it's already done and it's already going to be, what's going on? Or is there really a possibility?
There was confusion in the ranks. It seemed like maybe she was going to try to figure out a way to make weight. Because, if you go to the hospital during the middle of a weight cut, like it could be any of a number of things, but the bottom line, at the end of the day, whatever it is, the first thing the doctor's going to do is look at you and go, you're dehydrated, you dummy.
Yeah.
Here's an IV. And at that point, you got the cutting issue. So, well, let's get into all of it. But I want to say that the biggest thing was it took me by surprise. I don't know how many people watch The Ultimate Fighter all season long. I get it. Some people are tired of the show 26 seasons in. And listen, it's
It's on a weird night.
Yeah, I totally understand. I did watch it. I was really first of all, I mean, I still watch it because it is part of my job. But I was excited because this is a championship belt on the line.
Sure.
I feel like I need to know. I can't show up for a UFC title fight and not know anything about the people that are involved in the fight. So I felt like I was really interested in finding out how this season would play out. Sijara did have weight troubles all season long. It was funny because you and I got to do interviews early on in the season, but we actually did. I think it was right before the semifinal fights is when you and I talked to him. And the UFC was nice enough to say, hey, listen, if you promise to embargo this information and hang on to it, we'll let you talk about their progress a little bit to only a couple of them, not all of them, only to a couple. Sijara was one of them. and she mentioned how she had to cut her hair. So so you knew she was struggling from day one. But this week we thought, hey, let's ask her about it. How's the weight right away? So when we had media day, this is what she had to say, and to me, I don't know. Maybe I'm naive. Maybe I listen to people. It sounded good when she said this.
Well, I guess we should probably start right there with the weight cut. That was an issue all season long. I mean, you made it, but give us an idea, kind of what you did maybe differently and how it's feeling this time around.
I'm feeling much better this time. I had a full camp to get ready and sort of reframe my body. Prior to the Ultimate Fighter, I was fighting at 35, so I was walking around at like 50, 55, so the cut was a little tougher in the house. But it's going much better this time since I was able to sort of walk around a little lower coming into this cut. But, cutting is part of the business, so it is what it is,
So there you go. At the media day, Sijara Eubank said, listen, everything is going fine. And obviously it didn't go fine because she was pulled out and, again, never even had a chance to step on the scales. She was ruled out at the hospital. Going to welcome in our good friend Fiasco Jones, who has made his way into Boomers as well. How you doing, my man?
Booga! Kenny was on the dial, and he still didn't make it. I was like, cold coffee.
Long-time listeners know well to turn it down at least just for
I gave a
moment.
beat. I gave a beat for all you listeners.
I think we've got everything else dialed in, though. We've got the volume.
Turns out I'm a mid, everyone, if you want to know that. I'm a mid.
Mid-gain.
All right, let's talk about it. So, guys, obviously this made today a crazy day for all of us. We said it kind of jokingly starting. This was a slightly lower profile event than UFC 218 in Detroit, which is just an incredible card. But today, it really made everything hectic for everybody involved. I guess, first of all, we'll just say it's the right decision all the way around, right? I mean, if Sijara is having medical issues and needs to go to the hospital, God bless that she's taken to the hospital and that they rule her out. But I like the decision of putting Roxanne Modafferi in there. Roxanne was the one that lost to Sijara. So, I mean, in some ways, if it's like an Olympic, wrestling bracket or whatever, that's your replacement. You know what I mean? So I think that made sense. I heard some other people, well, why not Barb? But Barb already fought Nico.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense to do that fight again. So, I don't know. Overall, I thought everything was handled well. And how great is it, too, that the domino effect that we had, that Lauren Murphy, who was supposed to have a fight, but her fight was delayed due to visa issues due to her Brazilian opponent, was told, hey, you know what, come in town anyway, make weight. There's so many fights on the card in the flyweight division. There might be a real opportunity for you to be here. She ends up getting a fight. With Barb Honchak, which is, I mean, that's a legit fight. You're a UFC veteran. Barb Honchak, a lot of people consider her, the best women's flyweight of all time. It's not like a division that's been thoroughly parsed out or whatever, but I mean, she's the former Invicta champ. I did have somebody tweet at me, and I wish I could pull it up right now, and I should have had it ready. The greatest tweet ever, and again, this is kind of an inside joke if you're watching it, but when it was announced that Lauren would be fighting Barb, he tweeted, he's like, will Eddie Alvarez be able to tell them apart? Because, of course, when Lauren was like, I'm going to the other team, Eddie Alvarez says, hey, everybody, Barb quits. And he's
My name is Lauren.
It was so great. I could not believe they even aired that because it made Eddie Alvarez look so bad. But anyway, got to feel good for Roxanne Modafferi, who was the favorite going in. Of course, she was the #1 seed. And I think most of us thought at the beginning when this thing was announced, it was going to be Roxanne and Barb fighting each other in the finals for the title fight. And Roxanne at media day kept such a stiff upper lip, a straight face. She was like, hey, I wanted to be there, but I'm not there. But I get to fight Barb, who I had fought before, and it's a rematch. And I want this is personal to me. So I mean, I don't know about all these changes. It sucks to lose Sijara because I really think Sijara is talented, man. I think she has a ton of skills, but it does feel like in this crappy situation, I feel like all the moves that were made to fix it were right.
Yeah, I agree. And it's that perplexing thing about fate. It's Roxanne got her moment, despite the fact that, it's a weird story for her. She came in before, didn't make it. Came the second time, didn't make it, and then out of almost as it was meant to be, here you go. By the way, the girl who beat you, she fell out, so it's you. And it's like the happy warrior gets gets her day, you know?
Yep. It's a great point, man. And there's no way you don't love Roxanne. I thought it was cool, and it was cool that even she admitted. I mean, she got so many props. Like, Dana was giving her props on the show, just because she is. I mean, it's funny, like Michael Bisping. You know, Michael Bisping, you look at what he's accomplished in his career. Like, I don't think Michael Bisping is the most gifted athlete of all time. Like, I just feel like he works his ass off. You know what I mean?
Sure.
He maximizes his potential. He maximizes who he is, and he has been able to accomplish way more than, you know, somebody else has just had to give it to him. And I feel like Roxanne's kind of that same kind of person. Like, I mean, and she's able to admit it. She's like, my striking still looks kind of awkward. It still looks weird. You know, she gets it. Like, she is not a God-given athlete. Like, if you're picking dodgeball teams or whatever, like, she's last. You know what I mean? But she works her ass off. I mean, she's somebody who's been around. And I'll tell you what, and I hate to say this because, you know, I don't want to take away from Nico and Sajara, but I think having Roxanne in this title fight, again, knowing that, she, you know, it's not like she's the winningest fighter of all time. She has her share of losses, but I honestly feel like it gives more legitimacy to the title fight, the fact that she's involved in it. You know what I mean? It was so weird that you basically had, like, a 2-2 fighter against a 3-2 fighter for a UFC title. You know what I mean? And that's the nature of sports, especially when a tournament's involved, and that it's cool. I mean, I thought it was awesome. You got two underdogs. But at the end of the day, it did feel kind of weird that, like, we're handing out a UFC title to one or two people that has, like, 5 fights total.
Right.
It's actually funny that you bring that up because there was some talk in my little circle, just, you know, kind of like as it's happening, as we're kind of seeing that, you know, we're waiting for that last moment till the literal end of weigh-ins before we find out, oh, Sajara didn't make it, which I think probably may have commission issues. Like, maybe you can't really make an announcement until it's officially over. Either way, someone made a comment saying, like, well, now you know that there's going to be some people out there that saying that this is not the legitimate champ because she didn't make because Roxanne didn't actually win her way to this position. And at which point I countered is that, like, here's the thing, is that every real fan understands that the weigh-in is part of the fight. It's not ancillary. It's not like just like a sideshow.
Right.
It's part of the fight.
Yeah.
And if
like some kind of technicality to get ruled out on
right.
or something, right?
Yeah, it's not that. This is part of – it's literally the opening punch to that fight is making weight. And if you can't do it, then guess what? The next person is going to step in line. And essentially you default. You default to the fight. Right. And it's just the way it is. And so this is the legitimate next runner-up to the belt, you know. And so I'm satisfied with that. I'm satisfied with how it all kind of turned out. Especially, Roxanne. I think it helps her story. I think it's a really good story. And
that's what I think is the biggest thing. Is that Roxanne, like I've been covering her for Invicta, covered her, you know, when she's done the tough before, and watching her grow and just seeing her be so open and you know. People either love Roxanne or they hate her. And how can you hate her? They either can't understand her jokes, they can't understand her comedic timing,
right.
And then they're just like, I don't know about her. But seeing somebody that's made the turnaround that Roxanne has done, Roxy works her butt off, and she looks like Roxy 2.0 or Roxy 3.0 for what we see now in the way that she approaches the game. It's like she finally got to the point where she's like, I know my jiu-jitsu's awesome. But now I'm going to go out there, and I'm just going to bang. And if you take me and you bang better than me and you beat me, so be it. But at least I'm going to go out there and do it. You know, I'm just going to go out there and throw it. I mean, she teaches kids jiu-jitsu. She's sweet as can be. She answers your questions back with the question in the answer, just like a pro, like we tell them to do. But, you know, what's funny for the conspiracy side of things, how quickly did they have the banner turn around? It's almost like they knew something wrong was going to happen.
All right, see, take the tinfoil hat. This is not Conspiracy Corner. That comes later. Okay, that comes much later. I was actually going to get some props at it. And Fiasco, I was going to kind of ask you, you know, maybe what you saw behind the scenes, because it is a scramble. I mean, you're talking about literally like you've got to, you know, go change video packages. Obviously, the audio intro for the weigh-ins had to be re-recorded. I mean, everything. I mean, there's so many like things that have to be redone. But it's so funny. We got into the ceremonial weigh-ins, which let me just say, I don't know that we really need to have a ceremonial weigh-ins today. I'm just gonna throw that on the table. Maybe could live without that.
I mean, especially when you don't let the fans sit in the seats.
Yeah, just saying. But we did have a ceremonial weigh-ins, and you know, the 50 or so people that were there had a great time. But you know, I when we got in there and we sat down, you know, we looked up at the screen and it had like the new names. I'm like, oh, I was like, graphics department on point. Like, yeah, they got their stuff done. And then I looked at the step and repeat banner that's the backdrop, and I'm like, oh wow, like they got that done. Like they got that reprinted and ready to go. Or maybe it was printed weeks ago.
I mean, because you think about it, 11
Take the
o'clock.
tinfoil hat off.
11 o'clock today when supposedly shit happened.
They get it printed like 5 minutes from here. So like,
I was gonna say, is that like, hey, that's more of a props to the printing people, whoever the third party is. I mean, I will say,
conspiracy.
Conspiracy corner. Not to say that like the graphic department art side is easier because they work their asses
they just
off.
like delete.
But they've already cut out those images, and to like put two double heads together.
But I mean, to print something and actually get it onto a canvas,
That's impressive.
have it get dried,
I'm sure they
get dried, and then delivered to a location, and then it's installed.
I've heard that they actually
all
do
within.
have,
5 hours later?
There's a printer here that does like an express printing.
I think I think Tough Print still does all the stuff. Chase Corbin, I think that I believe like it's the guy that used to do all the sponsor banners and stuff, and now he does a lot of. I think
that's some real inside baseball shit right there.
That's way too much. See, nobody.
You know my first name?
Nobody cares.
Printing guy is how I would know it.
Unless it was just like the episodes, you knew the real final. Weeks in advance.
Yeah, because they already fed you that name. They fed you that name.
Stop it.
Mr. Corbin. Who are you, Mr. Corbin? Are you the Illuminati? Are you the Illuminati, Mr. Corbin?
You guys are just giving people ammunition, you idiots.
But I am happy.
But I will
get back to the fight. I love this fight because it's two fun fighters.
I'm excited for the
love it.
I'm disappointed a lot because I really do. Sajara to me was so impressive. I mean, when we did our cast interviews, you know, we didn't know the results at that point, but we did find out at that point that she was in the semifinals.
Yeah.
Like we didn't know when we first sat down, but just talking to her, and then after they were like, okay, look, you can talk to her a little bit more. And so we found out she was in the semifinals, and I was like, man, you know, we hadn't seen the fights, but she kind of described them and how she finished them, and I was like, this chick might be the real deal. And I really do feel like she's the real deal, but. Man, like
just might not be at this weight class.
Yeah, it might be a bantamweight, I guess. I don't know, man.
It's a lot closer to what it seems like is their normal weight. If they said that she came down from what 155?
Yeah.
I mean, like
that's a lot.
That's a lot. I mean, bantamweight's a stretch. You know, I mean, like to even just it just sucks. It sucks because she's a dominant. She's got
because you can't like
skills.
rebook her in a title. Like you can't just book her again against the winner.
No, she's got to work her way back up.
Yeah,
she lost her chance, and I mean she will get there. But the fact is, like most of these girls were fighting, and they were going to get contracts. Probably, hey, thank you for fighting in this tough finale.
Right.
Here's a couple more bones. We're going to throw you. We're going to work you into the system. Now it's a matter of hey. You screwed up. I mean, I would like to think that they wouldn't hold it against because they realize she's already been punished more now by herself, by what she's did, losing the chance to get a title than anything that they can do as for, hey, sorry, we're not going to use you right now. So hopefully they'll take that into account, like she's going to kick herself for it. She put on stellar fights. She's a good fighter. Let's give her another shot. But she lost any momentum that she had as for where the top of the billings. But I think ultimately, I mean, throw her back and throw her into the bantamweight division if she can work that one. If not, hey, by the way, there's a big division that has no fighters in it. You know,
I think you got to give her a bantamweight fight.
I think bantamweight should do a lot better.
Fight. Well, I mean, I think you give her another shot at flyweight and see where she does.
But just not a title fight.
Right. And,
no.
And here's the thing, like you said, like to be with her camp and her camp right now, it has got to be. Pretty trying moment because she knows what she just lost, you know, and I don't know about if it's a lack of discipline or if it's just like her body just completely just said F you, I'm not doing this anymore. And which is I don't know if you've ever covered this, but I was talking to one of our female coworkers at where I work, and she mentioned something that I never actually thought about.
You mean the UFC?
What? I don't know.
maybe he has another. They know where you work, Fiasco.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I work at a computer printing company.
I work at a 3-lettered organization.
It's an organization with a large headquarters on 215 around Jones
it's Pepsi.
and Rainbow.
I work at Pepsi, a Pepsi bottling plant. I'm a
carry on.
Yeah. Either way, one of the female coworkers that I worked at the Pepsi bottling plant was saying that women actually, when they actually start having their menses,
Yeah.
they pretty much their body will not give up weight.
Yes.
And I mean, that's just speculation at this point, but it is an interesting vector for one of those things that you don't think about when cutting weight with men. Men don't have this problem at all, but when you talk about women, and there are things that you can mitigate against that, but I actually do wonder if this is may have been one of the things that came into play. It may not. I mean, she came in pretty heavy.
No, but you don't know. I mean, the women's body is definitely different, and we actually we did run into that issue in Sydney. Nadia Kassim, our good buddy Christian, just happens to be friends with her camp, and that's probably not something the camp would talk about. But she missed weight, but her camp was open even earlier in the week. It's like, dude, right when she started cutting weight, she got her period. And it's like, oh no, what do we do now? I mean, it's a reality of dealing with it. So, yeah, who knows if that was the situation, but sucks. It really does suck. But could be Roxanne Modaffari's game, which if that's the case, I don't think anybody will hate because she is such a good person. We'll see what happens to Sajara. Now, I think the most important aspect of this whole story really is something that we have to go to Fiasco for because it's not a conspiracy, you jackass.
Is it? Can I make it one? Yes.
My understanding is
everything's a conspiracy.
You have a little bit of inside information that we have not had an opportunity to talk to Nico Montano about how she found out how everything happened, and I heard through the grapevine that Nico Montano may have learned of her fate through what I can only call just what I was
tabloid sources.
I was
tabloid.
No,
sources.
I was told. I'm not sure where it is, but maybe you could tell me. I was told it is without question the leading mixed martial arts news source on the planet.
That might be hyperbole, but from what I heard, speaking to her directly, asking, "Hey, so Nico, where were you?"
So you got to interview her, basically. Yeah.
How did you find out about this?
Which is weird that they would allow somebody from the Pepsi bottling company to just come over.
It is strange, but
and interview Nico Montano.
But I mean, I don't want to say who. I have really strong friends in the organization.
Yeah, it's cool though, man.
Yeah.
Just,
so I just dropped the bottles.
Outside the box.
I dropped the bottles and said, you know what? This is breaking news. People need to know. So I had the opportunity to talk to her and said, hey, so where were you and how did you find out? And her comment was, if you will not believe this, Ariel Helwani. No, it was not. No,
I'm turning his mic off. Hold on, I'm turning his mic off.
We'll get that in post.
MMA junkie. She says I was reading MMA junkie, and that's how I found out who my opponent was. And I was like, oh, good job.
That's what's up.
You tabloid yellow journalists.
Fake news. Fake news. All right, well. Listen, the Ultimate Fighter finale is going to happen on Friday night. We just have a brand new main event. And, Cold Coffee, if people need to go, do you know how they could get tickets? Because I tell you what, I bet people in Vegas want to go. And you know what? I know the best way to do it.
How's that?
Our good friends at SeatGeek.
Oh,
that's the way you do it.
That's the way you do it.
Our new partners at SeatGeek, they jumped on board with the MMA Roadshow. They know talent when they see it. And we, in return, see great apps and great services when we see them. SeatGeek is definitely one of those. I do have the app on my phone.
Yeah, you did.
By far the easiest way to do it. I haven't gotten to use it yet for anything yet because I'm trying to figure out what I can go. Like, I went to Imagine Dragons, with my kid. Took my kid to his first concert a few weeks back. Had I had SeatGeek, I could have saved a few bucks.
It would have been so easy,
do,
all
concerts?
Man, music, sports, entertainment,
like here
they
the
got
strip,
it
like
all.
Say, case in point, I had the birthday present Cher at the old Monte Carlo.
Should have gone to SeatGeek. You messed up, bro.
I think I did.
You messed up. It is by far the easiest way I found to shop for tickets. Anywhere you are. Just a few little taps on your phone. Like, you could just be hanging out. So, you may have, forgot last second. Like, oh, shit, I was supposed to buy a present for my
I hate to break it to you, dog, but Cher's on here.
That's what I'm saying.
Few
taps. Just a few little taps. You can instantly find the seats.
Give me a quote.
I haven't figured out exactly what day I'm going yet. But I'm gonna use the Geek to buy Golden Knights.
That's what's up.
I gotta take my wife and kid to a hockey game. I mean, obviously the brand new teams in town. Gotta take it to a hockey game. You can do that.
That's what it's for, man. SeatGeek is designed to make your ticket buying experience easier than ever, folks. It saves you time and money by searching multiple ticket sites to compare prices and find amazing deals. And to get the most bang for your buck, SeatGeek grades every ticket based on value to help you immediately identify the best seats that fit your budget. I have a small budget, but whatever. Plus, every purchase is fully guaranteed, so you can shop for tickets on SeatGeek with confidence. Make SeatGeek your go-to app for finding the best deals on every type of ticket, from sports and concerts to comedy and theater.
It's amazing how that just rolls off the tip of your tongue. Just,
Dude,
just right there.
It's
like,
just like
really,
that.
Just top of mind.
Normally there's some and ah in the way you speak,
No.
but not this time. When you
Not
when you
this
say
time,
SeatGeek
'cause
stuff,
I'm
you're like, you're
excited.
clear. You are dialed
Precise, you dial it in.
I'm excited. Hey, by the way, I meant to say $155. From 155 up is your share tickets on SeatGeek right
well,
here.
I made a mistake.
Share is expensive.
She is, and I paid more
And
than
if you
that.
were to use this right now, you would also get $20
Well, I was
off.
going to say, that's what's up. I mean, not only do they find you the cheapest tickets, but the best thing of all, you know, when you jump on with the Roadshow, they want to help out the listeners. So all of our listeners, they get $20 off their first purchase. So you just sign up. Of course, you use that code that we use, Roadshow, all one word. Just,
Can I ask a question?
just like for Freshly.
Can I ask a question? You may
can.
not know this. Is it SeatGeek's not local, right? It's all over.
It's international.
International.
All over.
Oh
son.
shit!
Tickets everywhere,
all right,
son.
All right,
Wherever
People,
you want to
Christmas
go.
season. Anniversaries are coming up.
You're up in
Don't make the
Detroit?
same mistake Fiasco made. Don't pay full price.
All right. Use that promo code Roadshow. $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. That's the best way to do it. All right, let's take a look at the rest of this card, by the way. We're admitting it, right? I mean, this is not the best card of all time on paper. Totally get that. It is interesting to me, though, like, we're going to know a lot about how the flyweight division looks after this. It's kind of weird because in some ways – the whole season of Tough was just like thrown out because you're like, we're bringing y'all in anyway.
They're all coming in anyways.
So it's a little bit weird, but we do get to see, kind of where everybody's gonna play out a little bit. The co-main event: Sean O'Malley versus Terrion Ware. Sean O'Malley. I'm excited about this fight. Sean O'Malley, of course, the kid that was identified on Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series, got the UFC deal, looked phenomenal. You know, they were playing the highlights. I'd kind of forgotten how violent that fight was, to be honest with you. They were playing it again as we were waiting on the weigh-ins today. Kid's got some definite potential. You know, he's been training since he was a teenager, started in boxing, switched over to MMA, trains at the MMA lab out in Arizona under John Crouch. I'm a big fan of John Crouch. John Crouch is a big fan of Sean O'Malley. He says this kid's the real deal. But Terrion Ware is no joke. A tough dude. He came up short in his UFC debut, but just showed a ton of heart and a ton of chin. So big fight there. Bob Honchek versus Lauren Murphy. Of course, we mentioned that one earlier. That is still a very, very good fight in the women's flyweight division. Brett Johns, Joe Soto's on there. Joe Mearschott versus Eric Spicely. That's the main card, 6-fight main card. Deanna Bennett's on there against Melina Fabian. Anything standing out to you guys? Again, I know this is basically the entire Ultimate Fighter 25
it's the whole
fighting.
26, but it's the whole
Or
show.
26,
But think
yeah.
about it. 7 out of 11 fights are women fights. There's only 4
pretty
dudes
wild.
fight. That's fucking crazy. I mean,
It's gonna
granted,
feel like an Invicta card.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it does. I mean, it really does. And in fact, a lot of these people have had time in the Invicta stage, you know. No, I mean, I think it's exciting. I mean, I know you're very excited for the Sean O'Malley. I'm excited to see eventually if the UFC is ever going to actually color in his picture and not use the black and white picture. I said
Only you would care about that. I mean,
fun.
Sean O'Malley might
I'm
care
like,
about that too.
That's so weird. Well, as much as he cares about himself, I'm sure he's talked about it multiple
Oh,
times.
that's some hate. I was actually going to say,
No?
I was going to come back.
I'm
I would
like,
say
did you
Sean-
guys listen to any of his stuff? Like, I mean, like, he thinks very highly of himself.
Well, that's
and
good.
I mean,
That's good, though.
it
He
is.
knows how to sell himself. I was going to say that I like this guy. Actually, I followed him during the Contender Series because the way they did it, every guy came through. We just had, like, I think 4 days in a week, and we just did everybody. There's kind of a car wash situation
Right.
where we basically embedded with one guy and just followed him through the entire process. And I had Sean O'Malley. And he's got tons of personality. I mean, I can see if you're, like, maybe on the – if you see him as a certain perspective, you could probably see him as kind of brash and just like, this guy is a piece of shit. But I gotta say, he is
That's where cold coffee leans.
right. Yeah.
No, I don't think. I'm just like
He's
Well, not a
a
piece
really
of
cool
shit, but
cat.
just that he's
he's very high on his skills.
Right, and
he's
I think
very high
that's
on
the
his
thing is that, like,
talent.
this is kind of that new era. I feel like that I like a guy who's that confident, but he's also very telegenic. He's got a great story, and he's a winner, and that's what I like about him. Is that this could be that second coming because we're living in a kind of a post-Conor world. I mean, I'm not going to say that we aren't, but
so you're trying to say he's the second coming of Conor?
I'm just saying we need some more of those people. So more from the Conor
look,
school.
On this page they colored him in.
Well,
he's already getting better.
Yeah,
he's got
just by
color
talking about
picture. This is a color picture.
We'll address in a little bit exactly what a post-Conor world means because the whole world could be post-Conor very soon if things keep going the way they're going. I am excited. Brett Johns, undefeated Welsh kid, 25 years old. I mean, he looks like the real deal as well, so there's a lot of hype around him.
He came in with some fun personality.
Yeah.
I like that.
The little sock pull-up.
Yeah, I mean, like subtle.
You need to have people that have a little showmanship, you know?
He's definitely got it. I think those are the ones that stand out. Should say, I guess, and Fiasco, I don't know if you have any more insight on this, but this is funny. Karine Gevorgian, of course, she missed weight. She came in at 130. That was an interesting part this morning, too. So she weighed in at 130.5, and basically the NSAC was like, she's got to weigh 130 or she's not fighting. So she had to come back and cut a little bit more, and she did make it on the second time around. They did do the whole 1 hour, so they basically stayed consistent, even though it seems like sometimes they make stuff up. They did stay consistent to the Kevin Lee situation where they gave her 1 hour from the time she first weighed in during the 2-hour window and then gave her an hour from there. She did come back and make weight. But we did hear an interesting story that her flight was delayed. She flew in from Moscow. Her flight was delayed in LAX. And I don't know who made the call on this. We haven't been able to figure out who made the call.
I bet it was her manager or somebody.
But she ended up taking an Uber from LAX to Vegas. That was kind of wild.
That's crazy.
Nobody knows. I want to know what it cost.
One person replied to your Twitter, and their
like
Uber showed like $300.
It was on Lyft. They got a $300 quote on Lyft.
But then another person put it, and I think theirs was saying it was like $480 to like $600 or $700.
I mean, what do you do if you're that Uber driver, right? Like at that point, you just like buy a room in Vegas that night. You're like, I already drove out of here. Like I'm not driving back.
It's funny. I actually took an Uber here, and I was actually asking, have you ever done an Uber to California? He's like, yeah, once in a while. He's like, I'm from Southern California, so it's basically it's like.
You put in that you'll accept it.
If I go down there, I'm staying there, because you ain't coming back for pay.
That can't happen that often.
Am
I naive to think that doesn't happen that often?
I should say once in a while.
It's a 4-hour drive.
Who would think for a second, like, dude, like, I really want to go to Vegas tonight. The airport's probably closed right now. Because otherwise, it'd just be cheaper buying an airline ticket, right? Like.
Or just rent a car.
But here's the thing, timing though.
Rent a car for a weekend.
I've always thought about this. The point you get to the airport, say 2 hours in advance.
Right.
You're waiting, then it boards, then it flies the 30 minutes, then you get off, and I feel like you almost kind of recoup the time. Maybe it's like only 30 minutes faster.
No offense to Rachel Ostovich, who is fighting Karine, but I kind of want Karine to win just so we get the post-fight interview so I can ask her. Who the hell made this call, by the way, to jump in this Uber?
And who didn't update DC's weight card for the weigh-ins today? It kept driving me crazy.
DC struggled.
He was like 130 and a half. I'm like, no, she reweighed at 130. And then he gets on there again. He's like 130 half. I'm like, no, it's not right.
DC's great as a fighter. He's great as a commentator. As the yelling guy on stage,
He's got some room to grow.
He's got some room to grow. Yeah, you know what? He's got potential. Yeah. He's got potential. I guess the only other thing I would say, for whatever reason, if it stands out to you that, like, Montana De La Rosa, who the hell is that? I've never heard. That was formerly Montana Stewart. She got married. Her name has been changed officially by the UFC as well. So, yeah.
That should be a fun one. I think that's going to be a fun one.
It should be. So,
I think it's going to be a fun card. I mean, we always get pleasantly surprised, and I think, if anything, this would be a card if people want to gauge the strength of what women's MMA currently is at and at a high level. This is one of those cards that hopefully it'll pull off. Like, I love watching Invicta, and I love watching those shows, and I'll watch it. I'm like, man, that was awesome. That was fun. So this is a possibility of one of those moments for a lot of people to say, okay, now I get why people are talking about women's MMA. Now I get what they've been saying about it. This could be a big, big night. If they all show up and put on the fights that we know they're all capable, this could leave a good taste in a lot of people's mouth that had no idea of the current state of women's MMA.
Interesting night. It's at a new venue, Park Theater, which is a first time for the UFC to hold a fight card in there. Beautiful theater. We'll see how.
Yeah, I hope it goes all right.
We'll see how it plays out. Anytime we're in a new venue, it's always a little worrisome. We'll see how it plays out. It's a beautiful venue though, so I'm anxious to see kind of how the setup looks and everything tonight or tomorrow night. So, yeah, that's the Ultimate Fighter 26. If you need tickets, you just go to SeatGeek. Before you get there, you just eat a little freshly. Throw down your little freshly meal. get your SeatGeek ticket, and you come on down. All right, listen. Should say, in terms of our frosty beverages
Just
here.
notice your webpage isn't updated. It still got the wrong fights. It still says
Pepsi.com?
Montana versus Eubanks.
PepsiBottling.com.
Pepsi doesn't have fight cards.
Damn it, Pepsi, get your shit
It just
together.
has Pepsi versus
It still
Coke.
got Modafferi
Can we
fights
talk
contract.
briefly about our fine Ballast Point beverages that have been distributed to us this evening?
Yes.
A Ballast Point home game. You know how we do in Las Vegas. They're working with the fine folks here at Boomers, where we do Thirsty Thursday, and they give us some good stuff tonight. Barmy. Can we just start with the Barmy?
Let's start with the Barmy.
Let's start about yes.
12%, son. 12%.
12% golden ale with apricot and honey, and it is every bit 12%. Like, as you try it, and we even remarked about it a little bit at first, when you swish it around, you kind of get that smell. It kind of reminds you of the honey liqueurs.
Definitely.
You know, like a honey gin,
Like the honey
or
bourbons and the
bourbons
honeys.
or whatever. You could definitely feel like you get a taste of that, like it's going in that direction.
It's solid. 12% is solid. It will. We were told to be careful with this. If for those who don't know, Ballast Point, San Diego-based brewery, they're partnering up with us because our man Anthony Beach reached out and hooked us up. That's what's up.
Beach.
That's a bad dude right there. And our buddy Steve, who here is in Las Vegas, is the one that's been hooking us up with the different beers that they make and telling us that. Now, he told us straight up, he's like, this one, be careful with it. He's like, it's 12%.
But it doesn't taste like 12%.
It doesn't taste like 12%, and you will be on your ass before you realize it. And he was accurate, right? I mean, this thing, it goes down smooth.
It is very smooth, and I feel kind of bad because we said the beach, but we didn't. There's no Steve call out. Like
Steve.
Well, I mean,
that's the 12%
one guy
right
creates the. Well, I mean, in fairness though, the beach doesn't keep the beer coming. He just set up the partnership.
Yeah, so the beach is getting too much credit.
Yeah.
Sorry,
All right.
beach.
Sorry,
Steve.
beach. Steve, our man, Steve. So we did that. The Barmy is solid, man. And then we're also doing. We've been kind of alternating back and forth. We got the Sea Rose, or as I like to call it, the Sea Rose Namajunas.
No.
Our buddy Steve. He calls it the rosé.
The rosé
of the Ballast Point
This
collection.
is
It is quite airy, I will say. With a hint
it does.
of-
Has lots of bubbles, little
Yeah.
like what do you call that? Effervescence, a little something.
No,
Effervescence?
Effervescence.
Isn't it called umami?
No, the Barmy feels like umami. I was even saying like the rosé feel like it hit. It's a tart cherry wheat ale, so I felt like it was hitting like the front of my tongue, a little sweet and sour, a little tart at the front, but the Barmy was hitting on the back, nearing the umami points.
I feel like you're trying to like get people to drink more Ballast Point. I think you're working counter to that. It's good stuff.
Now, I'm explaining. The Ballast Point hits all ranges of your taste receptors all over the place.
It's just good stuff, people.
Bro, I mean, have we done? By the way, have we done well as a podcast? I mean, look at our advertising portfolio: drinking, eating, and entertainment tickets. Like
That's what's up.
I mean, that's really like if we come at you one day with like, by the way. Jim's formal wear, I mean, then you're gonna know we sold out. You know what I mean? That we're just like we'll take money from anybody.
We just need the airfare.
I wear it.
We need the
house.
airfare and the Airbnb covered.
we'd be set.
We need the place to stay, and we need how to get there, and then we're set.
Then we're set.
Because then we got food
We got
delivered that we
food.
can pop in the microwave. We got the beer we can drink while we're there, and while we're in town.
We get the cheap
we
tickets
got
to
the
do whatever we
entertainment.
gotta do.
But you
That's
also need
what's
to be
up.
sponsored by a high class gin. I
You mean by Pepsi?
Hendrix, if you're listening, we love you.
Holler at your boy Fiasco
Yeah.
Jones. All right, listen. I want to talk about some things outside of we'll get to UFC 218 as well, but I do want to talk about a couple of hot topics because probably the big news of the week as far as we were concerned is we got to sit down for an hour with Dana White. UFC President Dana White actually set up a media luncheon.
D-Dubs. Just another lunch with D-Dubs. Oh, D-W. Hey, fella.
We did get to have a media lunch, and this was wild, man. It kind of came out of the blue. It was funny because when I was still in Shanghai, the UFC PR team was like, hey, listen, we're thinking about putting together this lunch on Tuesday. Would you be able to make it? I'm like, would I be able to make a lunch with Dana White where we can ask him anything and get headlines and stories? Yes, I think I can fit that into my busy schedule. But it was interesting to hear they were putting it together because Dana has not been doing a lot of stuff like this. I mean, it's been a while since he's hosted something like this, and, it seems like he's doing – I don't want to say less media, but yeah, a little bit. He doesn't do as many press conferences. He doesn't do as many big, radio and TV tours. So this is kind of interesting that he set this up. And a a lot of stuff in there. It was an hour-long discussion. It's funny because it was actually a little bit over an hour. There's an archive on YouTube if you want to watch the whole hour. You'll notice that it starts in kind of a weird spot. It's because the first 5 or 6 minutes we were actually talking about The Ultimate Fighter, which hadn't aired yet. And so we were talking about the finalists and, what he thought about it. So we had to cut that part out because we wanted to go ahead and get the archive up. But it's funny because then it all became completely irrelevant with everything that happened this morning. Because, we had kind of intended to come back after today and put that part of it up. So the first part about it was The Ultimate Fighter. But there's a lot of really interesting things. But there's a couple really kind of big points I want to talk on. And the first one, I think, is where you have to start, is on Conor McGregor. A lot of discussion on Conor McGregor and kind of where he stands and where he's going and what's happening. And, I think the best thing to do is, especially since I need to refresh on some of these Ballast Point frosty beverages anyway, is just let you guys hear the discussion. You're going to hear myself. You're going to hear Kevin Ioli. You're going to hear Brett Okamoto. You're going to hear Scott Peterson. I mean, there's a couple journalists in there that you're going to hear, but you're going to hear Dana White's answers. And as he talks about anything and everything that is Conor McGregor right now.
You know anything about what happened with Conor or allegedly happened in Ireland with hitting a mob guy?
No, but I don't think it's true because if it was true, it'd be big. Conor can friggin', Conor can walk down the street and it's big news now. If this was true, I just have to believe it would be off the charts crazy.
Did you call him or call Audie or anybody at all to find out about that?
No. If it's true, we'll end up finding out. I can't chase all these things around. If they're true, we'll get it figured out and we'll go from there.
Does it concern you, though, you had a history with Wise Guys back in Boston.
Yeah.
The fact that allegedly one of the guys he hit was in the mob. If that's true, that's probably not a very good thing for Conor, right? And
yeah. Can't be. It can't be a good thing for Conor.
Well, can you
but you never know. I don't know how that stuff works among, I didn't know any of those guys or any of that stuff, but I'm sure it can be worked out too. Jake LaMotta's brother beat the shit out of a Wise Guy too, and they figured it out.
I was gonna say, I mean, the one we don't know about that one yet. The one we do know about, we haven't heard you guys talk about or offer comment on, was the issue in Bellator where he jumped the cage, pushed the referee, slapped the Bellator employee that was trying to get him off the cage. I mean, can you give us an update on just kind of where his head is, where you guys stand? I mean, is he going to face any punishment for that? Because, I mean, it seemed like pretty inexcusable behavior.
Listen, the punishment, he was being dealt with by the head of the ABC. And we were going to fight him, regardless of what Audie says. We were working on a fight for him at the end of the year. And he's just not ready. Listen, we're still in that. Conor might never fight again. Guy's got a fucking $100 million. I got guys that made less than that and fucking were lawyers and went to school their whole life and quit working. Right? When you go to school your whole life to be a lawyer and you're a good lawyer, you make a few bucks and you're done. Guy's sitting home every day watching fucking cartoons or whatever he's doing. I don't know. Joe Silva doesn't work anymore. These guys make money and that's it. Fighting's the worst. Fighting's the worst. Try to get up and get punched in the face every day when you got $100 million in the bank. Money changes everything with a lot of people. So we'll see.
When you talk with him, what's the sense that you get with Conor?
Every time you talk to Conor, it's you don't know. Who knows? He's a very unique individual. I love the kid, man. I think he's fun. He's definitely, when we talk about guys, if you look at all the money Conor's made, there's guys who always bitch about money and I should have more money. Conor can't be paid enough money. Conor's worth every penny and more, And the other thing with the Bellator thing, he's a young, rich kid who is a god in Ireland, That's not the healthiest environment either. It's all part of, I don't know if you guys remember in the very beginning with John Jones, there's no doubt the talent was there. I used to go, the guy's talented, but he's young and he's rich and he's the king of the world right now. Hopefully he can keep it together. And that was way before any of the crazy shit started happening. And there it is. This is It happens.
So Conor's behavior
and
concerns
what's
you?
weird is it happens more in this sport, in fighting, in the fighting business, than it does in any other sport.
You said it, I think he won in what, the title 129, John, right?
Yeah.
So you said at
I remember
129.
specifically, you said now we'll find out.
And you used the phrase Klingons with him at that press
Right.
conference. I remember you saying that.
Klingons are the ones that drag you down.
And
to
so
bottom.
the question with Conor is it doesn't seem to be Klingon so much as Conor himself. That's
Conor's
doing
got a
this
lot too. I mean, when he travels, he's got friggin' people for days with him, you know? And when you make that kind of money, you're that famous, and you're a professional athlete, you're going to have an overload of Klingons. And, yeah.
Let's say he never fights again. Do you in retrospect say we messed up making that Mayweather fight?
No. I mean, the kid made a lot of money. That's what we're all here for. You cut through all the bullshit and all this. We're all here to make money. You're sitting in this room right now to make money. That's why we're all here. And we had an opportunity for him to go in and make more money than he's ever made in his life. I wouldn't change a thing. I knew going into that fight, because of that fight, he might never fight again.
But when we wrote it, you ripped us for that.
What did I rip you for?
He's absolutely fighting again.
I said, whoa. I never said he's absolutely fighting again. Even before the fight, I said, this could be the end of him. Who knows? He might never fight again after this. He's absolutely fighting. I never said that. I said, listen, he's telling me, all I can go off is what he says to me. He's telling me that he's absolutely going to fight again. That doesn't mean he's gonna.
Right. No, I agree.
Right.
I mean, I agree with what you said.
Right.
But did he express? So you were trying to do a fight at the end of the year for him. Was he expressing desire for that?
Yeah.
He was.
Honestly, with no bullshit, this kid's always been down. If you know, we need him to jump in and he has to fight, he's always will jump up, fight anybody, anywhere. He's that kind of guy. He really is. Listen, for me to have so much respect for a guy like Conor, it's because he's the absolute total package.
Right.
This kid will literally fight anybody. You know, he's actually not that hard to deal with, to be honest with you. If he could show up on fucking time, he'd be perfect. You know what I mean? Other than that, the kid would be perfect. You know, is he cocky? He deserves to be cocky. The kid's incredible. Being cocky is part of this business. If you're not cocky, you're probably in the wrong business. You know, you have to believe in yourself the way that this guy believes in himself. I love all of that stuff. He's hilarious. He's got, like, comedic timing. You know, he's fun. He's fun to watch fight, the whole deal. And, you know, I wouldn't feel that way about him if he really wasn't that type of kid. But he really is. He's really not that hard to deal with.
When do you have to start making a decision on his title, though? You know, you got Ferguson saying defend or vacate, and you're saying, you know, maybe he doesn't want to.
Ferguson has no business to talk about anything. So, listen, we ain't taking any direction from Ferguson, okay? Yeah.
But is it? I mean, do you have to start thinking about, well, he's got to get in there and defend this belt, or we gotta pull it off of him?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
You have to want him to fight again, don't you? I mean,
of course.
You had that conversation with him and try to encourage him and say, "Come on, Conor, let's go."
Do you know how many people, including Ioli and all kinds of other people over the last, you know, however many years, have been telling me, George St. Pierre is your biggest star. Don't tell me you don't want George St. Pierre to fight again.
I said Ronda was the biggest star.
Well, I'm just saying, whoever it was, I'm throwing GSP out there. So, you know, everybody always says to me, you have to want this guy to fight. You got to want this guy to fight. I don't want anybody to fight unless they want to fight. This isn't a business where you can just make people fight. You either want it or you don't, you know, and that was my big thing with GSP. He wasn't acting like a guy who really wants it. At the end of the day, I'm going to run this business with or without anybody. You know, it's just, it's if Conor wants to fight again, absolutely we want Conor to come fight. But if Conor walks away and doesn't ever want to fight again, it's part of the game.
At what point do you say defend or vacate the belt?
Well, we need to figure that. It's right now. It's not with him. It's not about defend or vacate. We're working on a new deal right now with him.
And word is it could be March, it could be April, or
yeah. We got to work out this new deal. Yeah.
Does he get points?
Huh?
Does he get points?
Did Jordan get points?
No.
Hey, just to follow up on Conor, though, you know, when you said that he's your friend, like, and I think, you know, Conor and Ronda are different maybe than, say, Jones was when Jones was on top, right? Where you had a different relationship with him. So just because of the personal relationship you have with him, don't you feel obligated, or in some way don't you want to call him and say, dude, what the fuck's up? And like, you're getting yourself the Klingons and whatever, the speech you made to John Jones in public, you can't make to him in private?
You can't. No? You can't. I've learned over the years you can't have these conversations with them. They're all grown men and women, you know? To be honest with you, the only one who's really ever listened to me in fucking all these years is Chuck and Rhonda. And those are really the only two that would actually listen to what I said. Rhonda was going to get a sleeve. I said, no, you're fucking not.
Get a what?
A sleeve. Tattoos all the way up to her fucking neck. I'm like, no, you're not. You're not getting a sleeve. Listen, tattoo yourself up as much as you want when you retire. Do not get a sleeve. And she listened to me. I told Conor, stop doing it, and he goes, you're fucking old. That's why you don't like him. I said, you think a fucking screaming gorilla on your chest looks good? He says, you're too old. You don't get it. I said, maybe you're right.
You were good on that tattoo thing. You got more than we thought you did.
Yeah.
When are you getting a tattoo?
Never. Think about this. Everybody in this room right now, what do you love so much, other than like your kids, right? That you would tattoo on your body. What the fuck would you tattoo on? I'll buy a T-shirt in every color and I'll wear it every day for 30 days. I guarantee you get tired of it. You know what I mean? Imagine if back in the 80s I got a tattoo. What the fuck would I have on me right now, right? Shit that I'm definitely not into right now, I can promise you that.
That Patriots logo.
I'd have the Culture Club logo on my fucking back or something, right? Hell no.
So there's Dana White talking about Conor McGregor, and we're going to talk about it. But before we do, let me just say real quick, if you like what you listen to, do me a favor. Please, do us all a favor. Jump into iTunes. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you leave us a quick rating. If you got a moment, please just go in there and review us real quick. That stuff helps us out a little bit, helps more people find the show, helps all those algorithms and all that scientific stuff. I don't know nothing about
SEO
but
people.
You could be like my man Slum Shady 989, who said, great show, love these guys. I've always heard John on post-fight scrums, and I love that he has such an informative look in interviews with all the fighters. Give it a listen. And by the way, I should the title of that was Great Show, Love John, and Coffee.
Oh, Slum Shady, my man.
Slum Shady.
So yes, thank you for that. And yeah, definitely check out the iTunes, give the ratings, and again, give thanks to our wonderful sponsors that are helping us do.
Damn straight. All right, Conor McGregor. Let's just talk about it, guys. I'm worried, man. I'm worried. You know, these reports that are coming out of Ireland that he's getting into a bar brawl, and now there's a mafia, ransom on his safety or whatever. I mean, I still find it a little bit weird because, I mean, he hasn't been named in any reports by name. It's been, famous Irish star or whatever, but then, of course, he plays along with it and goes on Instagram and posts the star, the superstar, or whatever it was. But, and none of the Irish media, of course, the Irish media, that's weird because, I mean, they're all so closely tied. Maybe they're not reporting anything because they feel like they can't. But I feel like the Irish media over there, if they knew more, the Irish MMA media, I should say, they would say something. They're not. So I'm not fully convinced. You heard Dana say he's not convinced. I'm not fully convinced yet that this is Conor. But it is scary. And I do just feel like his behavior is going so off the deep end, man, that I'm kind of worried. I know that sounds stupid. I mean, if the guy does go off the deep end, and let's say, like Dana says, maybe he doesn't ever fight again, and maybe, the guy's got $100 million in the bank. I mean, you can live like a complete asshole for quite a long time with $100 million.
For the rest of your life, you do it right.
You know what I mean? You could do it, and you'll be just fine. It's not like he's hurting for money. It's not like he has to fight again, and it's not like he owes. He needs to fight again. He doesn't need to do shit. He needs to do whatever makes him happy. You know what I mean? But I don't know, man. I'm literally like worried for the guy, man. I'm literally worried for the guy, especially if this stuff with the mafia and stuff is true. Like now you're talking about crossing borders and that you shouldn't be crossing. You know what I mean? And getting yourself into trouble. And I hate it. And I just feel like, damn it, I wish somebody was around him to just grab him by the shirt collar and shake him a little bit and be like, "What are you doing, man? Come on, you got all this. Your life is amazing." And, you go too hard and fast, and all of a sudden that life's over. And I'm not trying to be overly dramatic, man. I'm not trying to be that guy. I mean, it's not exactly like I worry about health and safety a whole lot, you know what I mean, in my own personal life. But, I mean, this guy is an elite athlete, an elite entertainer, a superstar, and just the things that are going on, God, it just seems red flag after red flag after red flag, and I'm worried for the guy.
Yeah, Pepsi's making me take a lot of OSHA classes, so health and safety is preeminent in my mind.
Well, you figure, I mean, Klingons, as Dana likes to call them and others like to call them, aren't going to do a great job of stopping the guy that's throwing a lot of money around to take you places, to go out to bars, to go other places. And, I mean, genuinely, I think when Conor does some of these things, it probably genuinely is pretty fun to be around when he does act up. And if something did happen, you know, like say this bar fight that started this whole Irish mafia, you know, fiasco, you know, who knows what started the whole thing. Hopefully it wasn't him saying something. Maybe it was just a matter of sticking up for a friend. I think it puts it a whole different light if you think of, oh, Conor sticking up for a friend in a bar fight accidentally hits a supposed mob boss father or somebody connected, you know, whatever. But, you know, with the way that any particular person I think that's out there in the spotlight runs the risk of finding these crazy people that can do harm. You know, we've seen stars that have had that happen to them, you know, from who is it? Selena had their fan club manager, you know, end up offing her. Right? I mean, there's crazy people out there, you know, so the last thing you need to do is really go out there and try to find it. Not that that's what he's trying to do, you know, but unfortunately in a place where, you know, maybe, you know, with this, the fighters, the personality, the type of money that these guys have thrown it around, it's going to attract people that love it, but also a lot of haters that hate it, you know, and maybe want a piece of it, you know. And Conor's he's very bold. He's very protective of his friends. He's very protective of himself. And if somebody comes up to him and is trying to swing like he's got a bigger dick in the room, I can see where Conor would probably take some, like, I don't like that.
Right.
You know, and maybe want to say something, and in the wrong situation, that can go bad. But if he has the wrong people around him that nobody's ever going to be like, yo, bro, hey, just slow down a little bit. Because I feel like if they do at this point, he's probably like, you're no fun right now.
Right.
I'm not going to deal with you right now. I'm going to go do my thing. You know,
and that's what I'm worried about. Because, like, you know, from an athlete perspective, like, I'd love to see him fight again, right? I mean, I think what Dana is saying is true. Like, there is a reality that he never fights again. I mean, you have that much money in the bank, and you're like, the thought of getting back into a training camp and kind of cutting off this lifestyle, like, I get why you'd be like, dude, why? You know what I mean? I made $100 million. Yeah, you're going to pay me $10 or $15 million or whatever it is, and hell, that's that's nothing to sniff at. That's another nice chunk of change. But like, man, I got to sacrifice. I got to risk. I mean, because, dude, I mean, he could walk away right now and never, you know, not risk losing, not, you know, because
prestige and his reputation.
Exactly, all that stuff is there. But I mean, the guy's 29 years old. I'd love to see him fight again. I'd love to see him. I mean, the Diaz trilogy, like, there's something to it. I mean, there is a reason to do it, right? I mean, they both have huge fan bases, and they both drive casual. I mean, that would be the fight of the year no matter what year you did it in. Pick any year over the next 5 years, and that would be the biggest fight of the year if you do it. You know, the Ferguson fight, Ferguson's right there, man. He's got the interim title. He deserves the opportunity to fight for the unified title. I didn't necessarily like the way Dana answered that question where he's like, hold on, Tony Ferguson's not calling any shots, whatever. And I get it. That's Dana. He's emotional. You know, he reacts to things. But I mean, dude, that title has not been defended in over a year. You know what I mean? It's been over a year. We need to know what's going on.
It's not due to injury.
It's not due to injury.
That's a big kicker right there. You know, it's one thing if it's injury.
So I feel like we need to know pretty soon what's happening. I feel like Conor needs to make a decision pretty soon. And if it's not fight again, that's fine. I mean, that's okay. I'd love to see him fight again. He's a great showman, and I think there's things he could do. But if it's not fight again, that's fine. But even if it's not fight again, I'm like, still, like, check yourself, man. Like, enjoy yourself a little bit more privately, or a little, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to stand here in judgment. I like Conor McGregor. It's just, you hear these stories, and it sounds very much like true Hollywood story. Like, here's the way down to rock bottom, you know? And
Well, I think that's the thing is, like, I mean, he had this just meteoric rise, and he just came from nothing to become such a big, big star. And, like, part of it's, like, even if he doesn't fight, there's a party that's just happy for what he's been able to do. And you hate to see at some point, like, the missteps that maybe eventually crumbles you know, the tower that he's built so high, you know, from his successes. You know, you want him to just stay there. If anything, it's almost like, if you're not going to fight again, that's great, dude. You've done so cool. And, like, I'll tell people, and we'll talk about you for years and years to come.
You did it. You made the dream.
You did it.
Don't
give us the bullshit to talk about.
That's the pinnacle of prize fighting.
Right.
You know?
We're begging him not to become a stereotype, is what it is. The guy who was up-jumped into this massive wealth, and then just goes and blows it off in the most extravagant possible way. I mean, don't become a stereotype, because honestly, there's been a huge population of people that saw him come out of nothing and said, well, he's going to blow it away. I mean, he's kind of, at this point, living up to expectations.
But I mean, here's a dude that, you know, was a plumber.
Right.
And was like, F that, I'm not going to be a plumber. Like, I'm going to be a prize fighter. And he did it.
Which is there's nothing wrong with plumbing.
Nothing wrong with plumber, but not at all.
Financially, we understand the
there's
dynamic
a huge
there.
difference.
Especially if you're a plumbing advertiser that would like to get with the MMA roads. No, but I mean, it's just, yeah. I mean,
Roadshow lays pipe, yo. That's our plug for your
I guess that's the big thing. I don't want to be overly dramatic, you know what I mean? I really don't. And again, if the guy never fights again, it's on him. I am kind of worried about him, and I hope that something around him changes, or that I mean, dude, if I got $100 million, I can't imagine. I mean, I live like an idiot now.
No,
you know
but
what I mean?
It's different though. And this is why it kind of counter to the Klingons concept is that Conor McGregor has shown he's shown an inclination toward this kind of behavior. Like, it's not like he had someone whispering in his ear, "Hey, Conor, let's go fight in a bar somewhere." No, this is who Conor is. You know, this is everything about him.
Well, you know what I've had multiple people say, and it sounds weird, but it's true. He is becoming the character that he was always playing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, he was a guy who was playing a character of, like, the rich, crazy, you know, and now he's that guy. It's like, now he can't just be like, "Hey, what's up, bro?"
It's the
Just
ultimate form of
you know
method acting. Is that, like, he was playing a character and he became the character. And I actually don't think that's completely at all far from the idea. I invent, yes. I think
right?
Because
dude, what he manufactured, again, his fighting talents. I'm not trying to take away from his fighting talents. He's a great fighter.
That's why he's here.
Is he the greatest fighter of all time? I mean, when people talk about the greatest fighter of all time, right? You know, they talk about Anderson Silva. They talk about Fedor Emelianenko. They talk about John Jones. They talk about Demetrius Johnson. I've never once had anybody be like, well, what about Conor? Right. You know what I mean? Nobody's saying he's the greatest fighter of all time. That being said, he's still a good fighter. He's a really, really good fighter with some great talents. But it was his personality. It was his showmanship. It was all that. Yeah. And he made this. Like we always say, like, I really feel like he willed that Floyd Mayweather fight into existence. Like, the things that he's always talked about, like, I will these things, I visualize them, and they happen. Like, he really made that Floyd Mayweather fight happen.
Because we've already had the conspiracy corner about the idea of this, like, new thought, the secret willing shit to happen. What he's not taking responsibility for is the fact that he's a great showman. Like, he needs to own that. There's no supernatural aspect to this. Is that he's the second coming of Chael Sonnen.
Yeah.
And except Chael Sonnen couldn't actually match it up with wins, and Conor could.
Right.
And that fans of the sport, and even casual fans, probably in a greater majority, they want to see some guy trash talking another guy in interesting, funny ways that are easily, clickable and memeable and blah blah blah. And then they're backing this horse and he wins.
Right.
They feel like, oh yeah, I just discovered this thing. This guy's my guy. He's the winner. He can trash talk you. And it's basically just backing the horse that is talking the most shit and winning. It's fulfilling. And so he hit a wave and he rode it, and only probably he can in this era. There will be another Conor McGregor. There will be another one of these people that may well do it differently and better. But right now, Conor McGregor seems like a phenomenon because he's the first to actually achieve this trash talk plus wins.
I love it. I want to see him back. I want to see the Tony Ferguson fight. I really want to see the Tony Ferguson fight more than I want to see the Diaz trilogy. Even the Diaz trilogy, like.
Well, I think people want to see Diaz fight again.
People want to see Diaz fight again.
That's it. I mean, like, Diaz. I mean, outside the fact of, I want to see Ferguson fight Conor because I think that's be an awesome fight to see. We respect Tony. We'd love to see what that is. But also, too, Diaz brings his own wonderful set of weirdness throughout the fight week. I mean, I was going to say this when you were talking about, like, the showmanship with Conor. yes, his fight skills are great, and he pulls out these wonderful victories. But half of the fun of covering Conor is all the other shit.
Right.
It's all the fight week.
That's
It's all the
so-
talk.
yeah.
It's all the build up. Like you said, he willed that Mayweather fight to existence. That's so different than just watching him beat, Brandao and all this other stuff. Like, the fight's great, but what do we remember? It's all the other shit.
So
It's
true.
honestly,
It's all the other
like,
fight stuff
you can
outside of
forget-
it that we remember.
You can completely forget the Mayweather fight. It's
Yeah.
the every stop of that world tour that
Yeah.
was like, oh shit!
All the promotion,
we did-
everything else, right?
Abby Saban, our European-based editor, before that Mayweather fight, we did 2 videos, and he produced them both. And it was, Conor McGregor's top 10 moments inside the cage and Conor McGregor's top 10 moments outside the cage. And the in-cage one was like, this is kind of a fun trip down memory lane. The outside of the cage, you were like, I remember that. That was sick. It was.
That's all
It
the
just-
shit we remember. You're
But
right.
I don't know, man. I feel like you have to. You have to have moments of tempering down a little bit too. You know what I mean? Like for a high peak to register, you got to come down a little bit to the valley, right? You know what I mean? I feel like Conor is just like maxed out on 11 at all times right now, and I need to see a little bit, because now it's just almost gotten to the point where I'm like, dude, seriously? Like, come on.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
Is that, like, if Conor McGregor were, like, say, a comedian that fought, then he would have these scheduled like he knows showmanship, and then like, got to fight now, and that
Schedule the pause
Right.
in there.
But he knows that that's
let
part
the
of his
audience
career.
reset. Yeah.
He knows that's part of his career. But like you said, the show has become the man.
Right.
And he doesn't know how to de-invest himself from that personality, that persona. So he's now just like anywhere he goes. And here's the thing, like, we don't know what it's like to live as Conor McGregor.
No.
I'm sure you walk anywhere and people want the on the moment, like, just give me some trash talk, Conor. You're the biggest,
So
baddest motherfucker in the world. So I'm sure that eventually.
That's annoying.
Who knows what that does to your psyche? Even if it was just a game at the beginning, then it becomes like, come on, man. I think probably comedians probably have the same issue, because everyone wants a comedian to be funny. They don't understand that these guys, this is written
They
material.
cry
It's a
too.
craft.
It's like
They
a
cry.
band.
They eat. They
Yeah,
take shit.
take
They
a
have
shit,
to have
they have bad
downtime.
days, and they just want be funny. Or in Conor McGregor's respect, he's probably like, just come on, tell me about this.
Like, it's not cool for just like, did anybody notice Conor was over there eating dinner? Like, that's
Right.
weird.
Just
like,
leave
no,
him alone.
Yeah. No, you need to know, like, that's
Right.
that's a very true
You
point.
expect him to walk into a room. I'm sure some of the quote-unquote Klingons are venues that probably, like, Conor McGregor is going to be here, and he knows that this isn't just like, I'm going to go have a drink with, I have to be Conor McGregor. I have to come in there with the arms fucking flailing and shit.
Yeah.
But to go back to Diaz, I mean, the thing about Diaz, he's got his own other little fun fight week stuff. But I think what people love about Diaz and why it's fun when he had the fight with Conor, where Conor's been this big, brash, this bigger than life character, where Diaz is always represented like just the real.
Right.
I think real, grungy, just like no flash, no whatever, just a dude that just goes out there and fights. But he talks shit, and he's just real. I love the fucking Stockton salute, all that stuff that you just like. He brings his own wonderful thing. So I would not mind seeing Diaz fight sooner rather than later, just for the fact because I have an affinity for.
Well, let me play
what
devil's
he
advocate,
does.
because I totally agree with everything you're saying, right? And I wasn't going to say anything about this, but since you mentioned it, let me just say this. Because everything that you said is totally true.
Right.
But when you hear, and again, we haven't necessarily got it confirmed, but when you hear he's like
15 million.
15 million or I'm
Yeah.
out, like, does that take away the real a little bit? That you're like,
Well,
bro,
well, it
like,
depends.
you won't go in for like 14.5?
Well, it depends. Yeah, I mean, because at that point you're pretty much saying like, hey, you have to fight on a pay-per-view. Then it's going to have to be on a decent pay-per-view. But then, if that's all the thing is, if we can attribute it to a points where you're getting some sort of thing, because I like when Dana was like, I forget how he phrased it when it was like, trying to get somebody to, you want me to come out with X amount of millions from the get-go, but we have to share in this process.
Right.
You got to help work it as well. I can't just go out of the
That was
bank
when he was
and
talking
just
about
say,
Demetrius Johnson.
Demetrius,
He
Demetrius
just
Johnson
versus
just,
Cody
like-
Garbrandt, because Demetrius wanted $2 million.
Yeah.
And he's like, dude, like, I'm not saying we can't figure out a way for you to make $2 million, but I can't give you $2 million guaranteed.
Yeah, like you can't just come out of the top. Like to come out of the top with 15 million right off the get-go with no no PR push because Diaz never wants to do the PR push, and that's what you need if you're going to try to do 15 million, 50 million, 100 million on an event or whatever. You got to have the PR push, and if you're not willing to do that, how can you expect someone to say, okay, I know this event's going to do well, let's come out. But if he can play the game, I'm all about him making some money. If you want to give him $2 million, $2 to $5 billion, and it's on a pay-per-view, and he's not getting points, I can see that being all right. I'd be all right with that.
I'd say
just for the fact, because I guarantee, depending on who he matched up with, he would probably. I don't know if he can move 1 million buys just on his own, but with the right matchup, I think he could probably do 5 to 750.
I agree. I'd like to see. I hope we get. I hope we get Conor and Ferguson here in Vegas, March 3rd, UFC 222. Because I mean, obviously that fight doesn't make sense for those guys to go to Perth. You know what I mean? Like, no offense to the Australians, but it doesn't make sense. 220 in Boston already has a title fight, and that's too soon. I mean, that's around the corner. You'd have to already be in camp. So I got my fingers crossed. 222.
Will Hunt be on that Perth card? What's going on with that?
You know, he was out here in Vegas getting the whole brain stuff done. So
yeah,
we'll find out. All right, another star I want to talk about that Dana talked about, George St. Pierre. Interesting talk about George St. Pierre and what's next.
Yeah.
Let's review real quick what Dana had to say about GSP.
I do want to. Have you spoken to George St. Pierre since the
No, George St. Pierre. We're talking today. I was on vacation, and George St. Pierre was on vacation for both the same amount of days. Except he got back yesterday. I got back Sunday, and today we're talking.
Do you expect him to go to Perth maybe and defend that belt? Or
I don't even know if Perth is what I want for him yet. So we're going to talk today, and we'll figure it out.
You think there's a chance he vacates that belt and goes to 170? Or I mean, there's a lot of monsters in that division.
I don't want to hear that. That's not what I want to hear. I want to hear he's going to defend his 85-pound title. That's the agreement we made. That's the deal we made when we made the deal.
Well, he always said that it's in his contract that he has to defend it, but then you always say, I can't make a guy fight either, and I can't make a guy at a weight class or whatever.
There you go.
So you
answered all my. Can we quote you, John? Yeah, you quote him on that.
So Dana,
that's exactly right.
I mean, we've kind of been circling this ever since he won the fight. But what happens if he comes and says, "I'm too big. They're too big. I can't do it. I don't want to do it."
I'm going to be super pissed, and I don't know where we go from there. Go to 170. Who's better? Who's better to fight at 170? You got Woodley. You got Wonder Boy. You got Romero, and then you got Luke Rockhold. Fucking monsters. They're all monsters. There's no fight that looks like, oh, maybe this is the fight for me to take. It's just, listen, you looked at Bisping like he was a tune-up. You got your tune-up. There's nothing but fucking animals at 85 and 70. So
Don't GSP and Luke Rockhold look like they're different weight classes, like 3 different weight classes?
Rockhold is massive.
Right.
Massive. He's massive when he cuts weight. Yeah. There's no good options. You know, to sit there and try to handpick people of where you want to go and everything else, you can't in this fucking sport. They're all nasty. You know? You're a fighter. Get in there and fucking see who you can beat. You wanted to fucking come back. Welcome back.
All right, so Dana White talking about George St. Pierre there and just kind of laid it out. And I'll be honest with you, Cold Coffee, you know, I think we touched on this a little bit. I am not instilled with much confidence right now that George St. Pierre is going to defend that middleweight title. And I know what Dana's saying. You know, he's saying, look, this is the agreement. I did find it very interesting that he said, you know, this is not just a verbal agreement. Like, we literally did write it in the contract, because I thought that was kind of a lot of bravado, so to speak, or whatever. Like, I mean, I don't know how you write something into a contract. And, again, it's incredibly unenforceable, which Dana kind of, you know, relay. Like, you know, how do you write a contract that says, like, and by the way, your next fight, you have to defend the title? I mean, like, you can just be like, well, I'm out. Peace. I'm good. You know what I mean? Like
I said, it's not enforceable. They can't make it. But it makes sense that they'd be like, all right, if you win this title, that your next fight must be a title defense. You can't go fight Floyd Mayweather. You have to defend your belt.
Why would they say something like
Why
that?
would they put something like that in there?
But I don't know. I mean, I just, for Dana, I did find it interesting for Dana to say, listen, I'm not sure Perth is what I want next for GSP, because you got to have Whitaker in Perth, right? I mean, you got to have Whitaker in Perth. I mean, regional, again, regional ties aren't everything. I mean, it's the balance that we talk about a lot on this show, because we do get to travel the globe and go to all these different markets. Like, yes, the different markets do want their local ticket sellers, but they also don't only want their local ticket sellers. You know what I mean? They want to see those people on TV. But I got to think the first time you're going to Perth, the first time you're going to Western Australia, that has been pining for it. And it is interesting because I think the thing that we don't necessarily get, or if you don't travel, like, why is Perth such a big deal? The reason Perth is such a big deal is because it does have a big fan base. But the problem is, it's like, for instance, like, why do we need New York legal? I mean, we could just go do shows in New Jersey, and it's true. Those fans can literally just, like, take a cab or take a taxi. Like, in Perth, it's like 5 hours to fly to Sydney. It's like, it's the entire, I mean.
It's very far.
Yeah, in fact, random Australian fan, maybe you could break it down for us.
So far, yeah. Yeah, so far.
Okay, all right. We've gone away from the cold coffee field recordings. We probably need to go back to those a little bit more.
Probably not.
But yeah, so it's a big deal. So anyway, to have these fans that have been traveling 5 hours to go see, fights, it's like being in LA and being like, the only place in all of America I can watch a fight is in New York, and I have to fly 5 hours to get there. I would think those people want to see Robert Whitaker. So if Dana's not even sure that that's what he wants next, and you got to think you want Whitaker on Perth, I'm sure, I'm thinking about my man Pete Klosko, Australian PR. I bet he's like, what? Like, no, you better give us Robert Whitaker. I don't know. It just makes me think GSP is not defending that belt anytime soon.
GSP, I mean, it was good to see him because he beat every expectation of what I thought I was going to see.
Amazing.
But my Lord, if there's anybody that's been beating any expectations of what you think's going to happen, it's Whitaker.
Oh, that is
Whitaker is just literally destroying guys that we thought were untouchable.
I thought he was an idiot for going up to middleweight. I'm like, this dude's a moron.
Dude, he is something.
The Romero fight was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, like, GSP wants nothing to Whitaker right now. He don't want to mess with that. Whitaker has
I'm not trying
dynamite in those hands right now.
I'm not trying to question GSP, man. That man's one of the greatest mixed martial artists of all time.
For sure. But he's a smart dude.
He don't want no ride. He's smart.
Right.
He don't want to ride Whitaker. You know what makes him a great mixed martial artist? He's smart.
Here's the thing, though. Like, what he's gonna drop down and go to Woodley? I don't think Woodley's a great fight for him. I mean, like,
I think Woodley would be better though. I like his chances against Woodley better because I think he can outthink Woodley. No offense to Tyron, but I think when
at least on a physical scale, it's more closer versus.
Yeah, I mean it is closer. I think he could stand the punches better because I think Tyron sometimes just has a problem pulling that trigger and just going all in.
That's true.
Whitaker doesn't have that problem, but so when it comes down to the gamesmanship and the strategy, I mean, who has more fights and just like the strategy of what GSP's been able to do, and he perfectly gameplay. And I loved him when he described it when he was talking about setting the trap for his opponent, and how he was able to get Michael. Like, this dude has been stepped away from the game, but doing nothing but thinking about fighting.
That was brilliant, and it's dead right.
I mean, amazing.
Not that we need to sit here and talk about a fight that's a couple weeks old, but it's so true. It's like what I realized was if I gave him enough room to try and stand up, that he would give me his back.
He did it.
Because that back take was so fast. Like, that transition was so quick.
Yeah.
And, like, it was very purposeful. It wasn't like he just saw the opening. It was like, nah, I'm going to back up just enough that you think you can get up.
Right.
And then I'm on your – it's like,
and I just feel like
brilliant.
With Tyron, I think he'll have a better game plan going
and then,
against
of course,
that.
He knew the left hook would be there. How did he know the left hook would be there? That was funny.
Because he can't see. Yeah. Where I just think that Whitaker poses more dangerous aspects that he has to game plan for. And I think he would rather want to come in. And he's smart. He picks and chooses. And I think we've seen a lot of guys that think what they know Tyron's going to do, and Tyron shows up and does better than they think he can do. But I think if GSP is picking between the two, I just see him gladly going more down to welterweight.
I agree. I think he ends up going down to 170. Yeah, I think he ends up going down to 170. To be honest, if I mean, I know that's what Dana said. I'll be pissed if that's what he says. But to be honest with you, I think that's what happens. All right, let's talk about anything else that sticks out. I guess one of the things that stuck out to me,
the lunch stuck out. Like, who the hell serves eggplant sliders at a luncheon?
I mean, that's true. Freshly wouldn't serve as
Freshly wouldn't give it that
sliders.
Shit.
Eggplant
sliders. It was like the kitchen was like. Well, I know you work for Pepsi. I mean, you had nothing to do with it.
I just give you a bunch of Pepsis.
I mean, like they have a whole kitchen that can do stuff, and it was almost like the kitchen was like, by the way, we have a whole shitload of eggplant that nobody ate. By the way, we're gonna make
everyone's
sliders.
out of Detroit.
Literally, like every media member walked in and like lifted the lid off. And they're like, "Ooh, sliders!" And you're like, "What kind?" And then you look down, there's like a label in front. It's like eggplant sliders. Everybody's like, "Lid back on."
It was eggplant sliders next to like the grilled veggies, and was just like, well, nobody touched that lid after that. It was like all the wraps off to the side, and it was just like
it was literally it was what did they call it? Like wild grains salad or something like that.
Oh,
which
was because the wild grain, but it was like a couscous salad.
Yeah, it was like a couscous salad base. They call it wild grain salad, and then eggplant sliders, and then grilled vegetables, and then there was some like
some wraps, but they weren't like wraps.
No, they were like
it was like they
wraps.
slid it, they sliced it, so they were like maybe half-inch like little wraps on a skewer. On a skewer.
They did not consider their audience. They did not consider their audience.
No, they were like, hey, we're going to feed you. We're going to do whatever. And we walked in. We're like, what is this? Which you all would have seen because they didn't have a backdrop at first, but then we suggested maybe you want a backdrop so people can't just look at the eggplant sliders behind Dana all for an hour.
That was going to be the background for the hour-long video. It was going to be the buffet spread that nobody ate. And then Cold Coffee was like, we should probably put a backdrop. And everybody was just kind of like, even me, I was like, yeah, we really should, because that's going to look like crap. Yeah, phenomenal. Okay, well, outside of the lunch,
of that,
I mean, that's big.
There was a lot. There was, I mean, that was
to me, the one that stood out again, and we've been tracking it for a long time, and maybe that's why it stood out, is the thank you for a fresh round of frosty beverages. Is
gotta love boomers.
Gotta love boomers. Is the Zuffa boxing stuff? The Zuffa boxing stuff happening full speed ahead, and here's what's interesting. I mean, number one, I mean, if you're a Roadshow listener, we told you this months ago this was going to happen. But I think the thing that's really sitting with me right now is that, first of all, I mean, I'm just curious to see how it all plays out and curious to see how it happens. And I thought it was kind of cool for Dana. And, again, you go check this out. It's on our YouTube channel. It's on MMA Junkie as well. But Dana talked about it, and he said, I asked him, I'm like, can you rough outline what the business model is? And he's like, well, I actually have two different business models. He's like, I'm not sure which one I want to go with yet. So, he's meeting with everybody. He said at the beginning of 2018, he's going to carve out a month. He's going to meet with every high-profile person in boxing. And I think that is smart.
Very smart.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing that struck me is that, and I don't know, maybe you guys could tell me if I'm crazy or not. Again, we all spend a lot of time around Dana. We all have seen countless interviews, countless conversations, whatever. Like, I feel like he needs this. Like, he needs a little passion project. He's talked about it on record about how kind of messed up he was mentally after the whole sale, like losing his friends and his business partners. And, I mean, all these people that he worked with, of course, the Fertitta brothers are first and foremost. But, a guy like Joe Silva, a guy like, all these people that walked away. And he's like, man, now I got new business partners and I'm in a new headquarters. And, like everything changed. And it's funny because, we're talking about Conor McGregor and how money changes things or whatever. I mean, Dana has openly said, hey, well, you should be happy, bro. You just got rich. He's like, dude, I was already rich. You know what I mean? Like, I just got richer. You know what I mean? But he loves fight sport, man. He loves his business. But I really feel like this whole Zuffa boxing thing, not that it's not going to be successful for Endeavor. I mean, it sounds like Ari Emanuel's backing him 100%. They're going to make this thing work, and I think it will be a good business venture. But to me, I almost feel like this is more like Dana needs this personally. Like, he needs kind of something new, something kind of to sink his teeth into, something that wasn't, I don't know. It's like, I mean, it sounds bad. It's like breaking up with your ex-girlfriend and you need something new because he's still got the same girlfriend, I guess, with the UFC. But, you know, your old business partner. I don't know. I just when I hear him talk about
side
it.
piece.
Yeah, exactly. When I see his eyes light up a little bit and I see him start talking about it, like I feel like he needs this in his life. So, I don't know. I'm intrigued by it. I'm intrigued.
I think you're right, but, like, I mean, he has had a few side ventures. I mean, there's the Looking for a Fight, Contender Series.
He does love all those. He does love it.
Yeah, so, I mean, maybe a third one would be, I mean, the man just likes
I think
projects.
Yeah, I mean, and plus, too, I mean, like, I think part of it, I know some of these are his brainchild, and I think some of these are projects being brought to him as well. I think people realize that Dana, he's like one of these galvanizing forces. People love him or they hate him, but he's a big ball of energy that I think if somebody's like, man, if we could bring him into this project, something's probably going to happen. He makes things happen. And I love the fact that he's reaching out to everyone except for Bob Arum and De La Cuckoo.
De La Cuckoo.
Because I think he really wants to make the project work. So he's like, hey, guys, you know, boxing's maybe been stagnant. I mean, he came from the boxing area, so the fact that I think he has a love for it and he has a lot of respect. And ultimately, even though most of us, I think, watch the UFC, we watch mixed martial arts, we love it, we watch boxing, we get a little bored at times. But I think there's still the love of him. He wants to keep the sport alive. He wants to keep it thriving. But also if there's another area where he can make money doing something else off to the side, I mean, there's never a shortage of fighters, never a shortage of boxing. So if there's money to be made, hey, good on him to do it and to make those moves. But, you know, the thing about Dana is, I mean, he's always seemed like a guy, he's got to have multiple projects going on or he's probably either just gets bored. I mean, he probably doesn't want to go home and see his kids. He's just like, I'd just rather be busy. He's like, I haven't seen my kids for the first 10, 12, 15 years of their life. Maybe I'll wait till they're like 23 or 21 till we can go out and have drinks, and then we can connect on a bro level. You know what I'm saying?
Sounds like me. I'm an absentee father. No, listen, I'm excited to see it. I'm not the biggest boxing fan in the world, but I do think that the way MMA, especially the UFC, does business, top to bottom on cards. You know, I tell that story about watching Guillermo Rigondeaux fight. Of course, Rigondeaux's got that big fight with Lomachenko coming up, and he was on the undercard at, I believe, the MGM, and there was literally like 3 people in the audience at the time, and I was like, this dude is awesome. You know what I mean? Like, why is nobody here watching? There weren't even media there. There weren't fans there. And, you know, I think the UFC does a better job of, like, you know, promoting a card from the top to the bottom. I mean, hell, think about that Mayweather-McGregor fight, man. Like, we didn't even know what the prelim fights were going to be like on fight week. We were asking for the fight card on fight week, and people couldn't even give it to us. Like, that's insane.
That's crazy.
I don't know. I'm kind of excited about that. I'm kind of interested to see where this whole thing goes. I don't know. Anything else stand out to you about that discussion? I mean, again, it's on YouTube. It's an hour long.
Yeah, there's so much. I feel like we could literally probably have a whole show that's just about the thing. So I think if anything,
we should probably get to 218.
Yeah.
We should probably get to 218.
Yeah.
All right, UFC 218, the high energy fight that we are not at. Max Holloway versus Jose Aldo. Again, Matt Erickson and Mike Bond have been crushing it up there in Detroit, so there's a lot of coverage on MMA Junkie that you can find. It's on the YouTube channel as well. Excited about this fight. Max Holloway versus Jose Aldo. It was a great fight the first time around. I think if you don't go back and revisit that fight in your head, I think that all you think about is the definitive ending, and you think, oh, Max Holloway is going to crush Jose Aldo, and he could. But I think you forget, like, it was a pretty competitive fight. Now, Max Holloway definitely took over at the end, but it started out as a very competitive fight. So I'm excited for this. I am picking Max Holloway. I am favoring him. I think that dude is just, you know, at the top of the game right now. Jose Aldo has had an incredible career, but he's on the downside of his career. It's still an amazing fight. It wouldn't shock me if Jose Aldo wins because he's a championship-level fighter. So I'm pumped for this. I'm favoring Max Holloway. The one thing I'm really scared about, and maybe it's one reason I'm really hoping Max Holloway wins, is I feel bad for Frankie Edgar. Like, if Jose Aldo wins, Frankie Edgar's kind of stuck out there on an island, right? Like, and I kind of broached it with Dana a little bit in that discussion, and rather than talk about the future and what it might mean, you know, he kind of went back to, like, why the hell is there a broken orbital in training camp? Like, who's hitting you that hard? And it's a fair question. I mean, Dana has always stood against, you know, camps where iron sharpens iron. He's always been the guy that's like, dude, no, like a boxing camp where these are your training partners there. But I don't know. It's just an interesting dynamic. I think it's a good rematch. It's not the fight everybody wanted to see, but it's still a phenomenal fight. But I'm just a little scared for Frankie Edgar because I think it would suck if Frankie got shut out. And I want to see Max Holloway versus Frankie Edgar.
I concur. It would be an interesting story for Jose Aldo to kind of come out. Obviously, he's not favored in this fight. I mean,
right.
I don't think anyone even really wanted to see this fight. I think I don't know how many podcasts past we discussed other candidates for this fight. But here it is, and it's going to happen. And I am also favoring Max Holloway just because it did start out competitive in their first fight.
Right.
But it quickly deteriorated for Jose Aldo. So, I don't know. At the same time, though, just like Dana White, you don't talk about the future because in this business, the future is one punch away. And
that was deep.
Yeah.
The future
deep
is one punch away.
Fuck yeah, quotes. But here's the thing, though. You could write a great story for either of those candidates.
Much respect.
Thank you, Jose.
That's going to be a tagline somewhere. The future is one punch away.
I'm going to get TM, that's my money!
Punch your time cards, because the future is one punch away.
But either way, it's a great story for either of the fighters. Jose essentially coming up against adversity, getting that not the second shot, the third shot at redemption, and if he comes away with it, good on him. Sad on Frankie Edgar because that pretty much
he's shut out at that point.
He gets shut out.
Co-main event: Francis Ngannou versus Alistair Overeem. Love this fight. Saw the face-offs today. I mean, not that we didn't know, but like when they went face to face, you could see like Ngannou's actually bigger than Overeem. You know what I mean? It's like. I mean, I guess that's not surprising, but they're just both two huge guys. I've never seen them stand side to side, and they're way taller than me. They're way bigger than me. Like when guys are like around your height or shorter, like like when matchups are announced, like Bohashinia versus Hendricks, you're like, oh shit, that's not good at all, because like Hendricks stands below you, Bohashinia's like looking at you in the face, but with broad shoulders out here. You know what I mean? Like there's matchups when they're announced, you're like, man, that's not good. And when they announced Ngannou versus Overeem, I'm like, well, that dude's way bigger than me, and that dude's way bigger than me. I don't know. But seeing them together, and you see that Ngannou's actually the bigger guy, he's the faster guy. He's the quicker, younger guy right now. Now, Overeem's the way more seasoned guy who has not fought just in MMA, but has fought in kickboxing as well. So it's not as if he hasn't seen strikers as capable as Ngannou. Of course he has, man. He's seen better strikers, more polished strikers, more seasoned strikers. But there is something about Ngannou and Fiasco. I know Ngannou spends a ton of time at the Pepsi bottling plant there. Basically just lives there like all day, every day.
It's strange,
right?
It begs a lot of questions, like why? Like you're a fighter, why? There's sugary drinks, but he's there a lot.
The guy is a specimen, right? I love this fight, man, because it is weird, like. And tipping my hand here, I'm favoring Ngannou in this. I mean, no secret here that Francis Ngannou has been a roadshow guy for a while. You know what I mean? We've been fortunate to be at quite a few of his fights, and really have enjoyed watching his rise. But this is like that perfect little step before he wants that title fight. Cool, yeah. Yes, the heavyweight division. You can make strides, you can make runs, but you still need that one like signature opponent. And man, you beat a guy like Alistair Overeem, you're there.
Yeah, and here's the thing is that, like, Overeem in the past has always had, as a personality issue, has always been very standoffish. But strangely enough, in the past, like, maybe 2 years, I've had some really great interactions with him where he has this, like, a really captivating personality. You get him talking about stuff that I like to talk about, conspiracies, politics, shit like that. That guy opens up. We've literally sat him down for...
I had no idea.
Never had that moment
corner
before.
fan.
Yeah, he's a really interesting guy.
Now we know what to start our next interviews with him with.
I do not like the roadshow. I just fast forward to the end.
Yeah,
exactly. The conspiracy corner.
Yeah, he's one of my fans. Amazing personality, really interesting mind.
I only listen when Fiasco joins.
We'll bring in some aluminum foil next time. Like, I formed this tin hat for you. He's like, oh, this will be the greatest interview ever.
This will be the greatest armor I need against the spectral vampires that are inside the air. Either way, despite that, I I'm going to go with Ngannou. Ngannou does spend a lot of time in the Pepsi plant, and he's a great guy. But basing it on just physicality and I think just pure prowess, I think Overeem is the wolf in winter, and or the lion in winter, and he's coming up against a guy who just has more just pack and punch.
I agree.
After going to that media day that just happened there and watching the workout, we were talking to Chelsea about it earlier. His striking was so crisp and it was so just he was pulling things out, coming from different angles, and he just looked sharp. He didn't look, we've seen the bad days when we saw like the Kimbo slices and the Dada 5000s, and you're like, watch these big guys throw, and like, oh, this is a joke. This was not a joke. This guy looked like he had been going and training with one major focus, which was whoever's in front of me is going to be annihilated because I must have the belt. And where he's at right now, I love Stipe to death. But right now, if Ngannou, the way he's fighting right now, nobody could beat that right now.
How exciting is Francis Ngannou versus Stipe Miocic?
That's exactly what I'm thinking about.
Holy Christ.
That's the fight I actually want to see.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I know Kane's trying to get healthy, but listen, I don't know what you guys are hearing behind the scenes, but I'm not hearing like just everybody's excited. Like, dude, Kane's like days away from being cleared. Everything I'm hearing is just like, dude, he's still not kind of back yet. So
sources I've heard close to the camp are they don't even really include him in the same kind of running. So here's the thing. I'm a huge fucking Kane fan.
Oh, he's a beast.
Yeah.
Had his body held together, he could have been the greatest heavyweight of all time.
Yeah.
But I'm not hearing that he's like, ready to go. And he's clearly the #1 contender if he's back.
Right.
But I'm not. So, dude, if Ngannou wins this fight, because if Overeem wins the fight, you're like, oh, Overeem's steep. And you got Verdum out there, like Verdum's steep. You know what I mean?
Right.
But if Ngannou wins, you're like, oh,
that's
dude,
the fight
give
I
me
wanna
that
see.
fight.
Yeah.
So,
And the other thing, too, is that I feel like how quickly the sport moves. You have, like, I feel like Kane is, at this point, he used to be the new guard, the young guy.
Yeah.
He's now old guard, I feel.
Yeah, totally.
And Ngannou is the future.
It's crazy. All right. Henry Cejudo, Sergio Pettis, fight that we were supposed to see earlier this year. Love this fight, too, man. Another fight. I mean, God, this fight card is so good.
This is a good fight card.
Listen, I favored Cejudo the first time around. I'm favoring him this time around, too. Pettis is the real deal, man. Pettis is solid, and I think he's got a lot of great days ahead, and I think he believes, his time is now. But I don't know, man. Cejudo has been on point lately.
He's
I
turned
feel like
the page
Cejudo's
somewhere.
I agree. I feel like Cejudo's finally being the guy that he's supposed to be.
Yeah, I agree. That last fight, he just looked like a totally different Cejudo. And this is the guy that we've already been saying, like, when it comes to wrestling, when it comes to that aspect, he doesn't even need to worry about that sort of stuff. But when it comes to this, I mean, like, he's on a different level right now. And but you're right. I mean, you can't sleep on Pettis. But this is not Anthony Pettis.
Right. I feel like, to me, here's the thing, is that Cejudo's striking has gotten a lot better.
A lot better.
But I do believe he probably wants to use his wrestling here.
He's got to.
You know what I mean, right? Like, I do believe he doesn't want to set up and strike.
He can easily, I think it makes sense to me that that's what he can do. And if he does, I think he'll have his way, and it'll be easy.
That's what I'm thinking. I think if Cejudo comes out here and is in love with his striking and wants to show off his striking, then he might be in some trouble. But I think he probably realizes that against a guy like Sergio Pettis. Not that Sergio's a joke off of his back or anything like that. I mean, he's capable. But I feel like Cejudo's best chances are to go ahead and utilize that wrestling, get top position, and kind of grind on things there. I think if he wants to stand and trade, that won't be necessarily the best night for him. But fucking phenomenal fight. Eddie Alvarez versus Justin Gaethje. I mean, come on, son.
This is one we're still gonna be basking in the glow during that whole Cejudo Pettis fight. We're still gonna be basking in the glow from this fight.
I mean, you don't. It's like it's silly to even break it down or whatever. I will say that my official pick on the stat picks was Justin Gaethje. I feel like Justin Gaethje's the guy on the rise. Eddie Alvarez is a guy that I love, but has started the downside of his career as well. So I feel like where they're intersecting, Justin Gaethje is the right guy. Funny because I mean Justin Gaethje, the way he fights, like he's gonna hit the downside soon too. Like you can't keep fighting like that forever. But in the and I've always said this, like dude, this dude is not gonna be able to fight forever. So cash in while you can, man, because this dude is money. And I love the fact that both of them are just coming out and saying, like, well, where does this put you in the – I don't care where this puts me in the division. I don't care what fight. He's like, I just want to be known as the most violent mofo in the UFC, and this is it. I don't know. I've been a Gaethje fan since his World Series of Fighting days, and after that fight, his debut with Michael Johnson, like, I just don't see how you couldn't be in on this dude. He's crazy. He's literally crazy, but it's so fun to watch.
Yeah, he is something. I mean, like, what he was able to do against Michael Johnson, which is still probably one of my most recent favorite fights that I've seen.
It's gotta still be fight of the year, right? Like, I mean, I'm not sitting with a list in front of me right now. So I'm sure when I actually have the list in front of me, when it's time to do our votes, I'll be like, oh, hey, that was pretty good too. That was pretty good too. But in terms of like a fight where I just remember from Cage Shot being like, I remember that night, and I think we said it, like, I wanted to stand up and just be like, you know, God, man, it was amazing.
Such an amazing fight. And when you see a guy come in with that much, because I think he had a lot of hype, but he also had a lot of question. A lot of people question the caliber of guys that he was fighting.
Mm-hmm.
But for him to come in and do what he did now just makes you seem like, okay, all the hype was right, you know, and everything he says, I mean, I love listening to dude talk. He's real. He's not boastful. He's not bragging about a lot of this shit. He's like, hey, you know, he's being very honest about the fact that I can lose is very real.
And I'm going to get knocked out cold one day.
I could get knocked out. You know, that's going to happen.
It's amazing.
But he gets in there, and he's just got that warrior spirit, and I love the fact that he's just so real about it. He's one of those guys that I just think makes a great champion. He's one of those guys that I think he's a good role model, but I also think that he just lives up to that type that you want to see representing the sport.
Can I say that when we sat down to start recording this podcast, I was like, you know what, man? I'm glad I stayed home this week in Vegas. Like, I spent some time with my family. It's been nice. I've been on the road 5 of the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
It's good to see my son. It's good to see my wife. You know, it's good to enjoy the nice weather. You know, November is usually a pretty good month. October, November, always nice weather months.
Get a little crisp.
You know, it's getting a little chilly right now, but it's still good. And now that we're sitting here looking through 218, I'm like, oh, fuck.
This card is stacked. This card is so stacked. And even the next fight.
I was going to say, let's just burn through it, and you tell me, because Tisha Torres, Michelle Watterson, incredible fight there in the women's division. I mean, this is a huge fight.
Yeah.
Paul Felder versus Charles Oliveira.
That's
on.
a good fight.
Yancy Medeiros versus Cowboy
Oliveira.
That's
a good fight.
That's insane. Jakar Close, who's a guy that, you know, we met out at the MMA lab years ago. He's a nice prospect versus David Tamer, who's another nice prospect coming out of Europe. Courtney Casey, who I'm always a big fan of, you know, despite her kind of, you know, mid-tier record. Like, you look at who she's fought, I'm a huge fan of Courtney Casey. Then Felice Herrig, of course, she's always fun to talk to, and she's always a great fighter as well. Abdul Razak Al Hassan, that is a dude that is just dangerous. Dominic Reyes is on the UFC Fight Pass prelims. That dude is the real deal. I mean, there's just a lot. I mean, I guess you got to throw out Angela Magana too, just as for the crazy factor, right?
Oh yeah, she's crazy. Gotta love Bobby Cooper.
Oh man. So anyway, I mean, listen. I mean,
it's a stack card.
We burned through it real quick. But are there anything that either of you guys want to touch on that just like a storyline you're wanting to follow or a fight you can't wait to see? Because it is nuts, man. It is nuts.
I do love that Oliveira Medeiros fight. I love Yancy. Yancy's
awesome.
A fun cat to watch. But I mean, the Tamer fight I think is gonna be good. Casey, she's another one that never gets the respect that she deserves, but clearly always goes out there and does great fights. Magana, she just finds ways to put her foot in her mouth, and I hope that's a fun one.
A bizarre fighting strategy.
Yeah, like, please don't put your foot in your mouth before you go out there and fight. But yeah, man, listen to some of our Fight Week interview stuff just is whatever. But you're right. I mean, and the Felder Oliveira, I mean, that is a tough fight. Just depends on, you know, which Charles shows up and how his weight. He looked decent and he looked good in the interviews that I saw that Matt Erickson shot. So
man, there's a potential like you could get done with this night. It would probably be tough to beat UFC 217 just because like 3 titles on the line. You know what I mean? Like the stakes of the fights. But dude, when you look at this fight card on paper, like there's again the fights have to happen. But there's a potential that this could be a card of the year type card, right? Where you're like,
there's a lot of contender fights right here. I mean, these are a lot of the top guys. I mean, outside of the Holloway auto fight, which is a title fight. I mean, look at all these other guys. Nagano,
potential heavyweight number one contender fight. Flyweight potential number one contender fight.
You look at the lightweight.
Yep.
Honestly, this is honestly a card for the true fans because only the real true fans understand the stakes for each one of these fighters, and that's what I like about this. Is that it's like you go down that main card alone is just
sick.
Like, you don't want to miss that.
Sick. This is a can't miss. Like if your buddy that's like the casual fan is like, hey bro, sometimes I watch, sometimes I don't.
Who's Gaethje or who's Gaeth?
Yeah.
Well, it sucks because
Gaeth the G.
It sucks because they probably like, oh, the last one's 3 title fights. That's the one I'm gonna spend my money.
Right.
And now you got to go back to him for the
like,
hard sell.
bro, you got to watch this
one. Like I know I talked you into spending on the last one, but this one, trust me. You got to see this dude, Nagano. You got to see Aldo come back.
That prelim Fox Sports 1 card is also
the FS1 prelim card is sick. That's solid.
That is, if you started there and moved on the way up, you are not going to be disappointed.
You could have like 5 hours of just ridiculous fights.
Just chill, fucking eat your chips and salsa, scream at your neighbors, get the cops called on you for the noise complaints.
That's like a Tuesday for you.
Maybe we could catch a flight to Detroit on Friday night, Saturday morning.
Dude, I mean the prelims and the main card, those two groups of fights alone is worth the cost. I mean, I think the early prelims are going to get some good fights, but the prelims, let's be real, the prelims and the main card, it's worth the cost.
Yeah, this is what I would call a ballast point card.
That's what's up.
Yeah, this is a ballast point card right here. If I had ever see a ballast point card in my life, this is a ballast point card.
Yeah, bro, I love it. Just checks in the mail, bro. Checks in the mail, man. Thanks for that. I appreciate that. All right,
thank you, and thank you to the rest of our sponsors that have
freshly seeking.
Thank you,
there, but this is a ballast point type card. This is a ballast point type card. I love it. All right, well, listen, we've been talking too damn long.
I still got to eat dinner, and I got to edit this thing. I got to have another ballast point, maybe another PPR in there as well.
We can fit one in.
Or Hendrix and Tonic, people. I don't know. Hendrix, are you listening to me? Am I just yelling at the wilderness? Hendrix!
All right, if you still have your audio playing at this point, thanks for listening.